everyone, welcome to Sway Band Anime. I hope your day is going well. Other than that, let's begin. I remember Wall E as a really great animation from Pixar. It was one of my favorite movies growing up, and it was very interesting to see it again. And whoa, was it darker. And it's way darker than what I remember. Like, reason one, and number one thing I noticed is that Wall-E is a sentient robot, right? And for those who don't understand what sentient is basically something that is alive, right? And has awareness. We are sentient, right? And so Wall-E is a sentient robot, which seems very dangerous. Like, who is developing these sentient robots? So the first, how we know Wall-E is sentient is because one, Wall-E can feel emotions. He feels happiness, he feels joy, he feels all these emotions, which is very weird because he's a robot. Why would you build a robot that can feel emotions? Which is terrifying. And so also over time we can see that he also develops mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression, which is like, what? And I'm not a clinical scientist, so don't go over here like, how can I clinically diagnose this fictional character? But I'm saying he shows a lot of the symptoms. And so, like, why did they invent a robot? And I'm talking about within the universe of Wall-E, right? And this is not even the only case of a sentient robot, right? We have other cases of sentient robots where we see as Wall-E goes on his journey and fights and takes down the tyranny of like the autopilot or whatever and try to follow Eve, we see that Wall-E definitely is not the only sentient robots, and that they have all the robots who are defective and or having mental issues, like in captivity in order to be fixed, and those robots are terrified. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, why are all this? Eve can feel emotions, right? Because she falls in love with Wall-E, which is like kind of creepy. And not kind of creepy, but it's creepy that not that they fall in love, it's creepy that there are robots that can fall in love. And I'm like, what is stopping the robot uprising happening in Wall-E once the humans return to Earth? That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, what is Wall-E is way darker than I remember. I remember it being very much full of love and engagement and people being together. And now I see Wall-E as like this terrifying human robot uprising that's going to happen because the robots are not going to always want to serve the humans. Like, they're gaining sentience and emotions over these 700 years. And even the first instance we have of this is the autopilot robot was trying to basically destroy the captain of the ship. And so, like, that's a good example of what's to come to the robot uprising. Also, we have another example, which is that the whole Wall-E trying to fight and get the plant back to to the humans for Eve. When he was doing that, a whole bunch of robots risen up against that out of captivity and were fighting other robots. They literally murdered each other for their freedom. Like, the robot human war is probably going to happen in Wall-E. I think that's something that we should see in Pixar too. I think that's something we should see in Wall-E too when it comes out in like 2027. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think that'd be interesting. Grown up Wall-E, the robots take over. Will Wall-E be a good guy? Will he be the leader of the robots? Who knows? Anyway, another thing that was really darker than what I remember was that Wall-E, so it was a part in there where Eve becomes unconscious, right? And she becomes unconscious because for whatever reason, she becomes unconscious because she takes the plant, and then she has the plant inside of her just basically incubating until the ship calls her up so that she can go, right? The problem of that is when she wasn't taken up by the ship yet, her body was there unconscious. And so, you know what Wall-E did? He dragged her body around unconsciously, basically, and just decorated her body and went on dates with her and like held her hand while she was just solely unconscious. Later, we found out she thought that was sweet, but I just thought that was really weird. I couldn't imagine someone taking my unconscious body and just like going on dates with it. That seems very creepy to me. Wall-E is weird, but also Wall-E suffers from loneliness, and I don't blame the little guy, but also I feel like that was super creepy, and I just don't think that I like that much. It's just so weird. So yeah. And then thirdly, one of the things else that I thought was a problem is that the human solution to that the earth is like basically destroyed was to leave the planet for 5 years to help the earth restore itself, and then like just stay in the earth for 700 years. Like they just left the planet, and which is kind of like eerie of today. Like, you know, like people are trying to go out into space, but yet we have global warming and like polluting and all these other spaces. And I can totally imagine like people, you know, going out to space and like for 5 years, like they're trying to terraform Mars right now too, and like I could and stand there for 700. But yeah, I just think that that's just kind of like creepy in the sense of like that's so dark, like in the sense of like the humans literally messed up the planet and just left, and it was just like, no, we're not gonna like clean this up, we're not gonna stop it. It's beyond repair. We're just gonna quit. Like, when did they know it was beyond repair? Like, did they just wake up one day and it was like garbage everywhere? Because it was a lot of garbage, and like a lot of the buildings were torn down, and a lot of the, I mean, this is 700 years, but it was still so much garbage after 700 years. So it was just like they knew for a while that this was just like not going to be good. So they just waited to like also. It was like another question I brought up was like, how do we know the atmosphere is like grown? How do we know these plants that grew on Earth back like after Wall-E had got back there were edible or like able for us to eat or able for us to use? Because like this planet has been terraformed to something else now, in a sense of like it's full of garbage, it's full of metal. Like robots are gaining sentience. Wall-E's not the only sentient robot here. So it was just all these questions that I had while watching Wall-E. Yeah, but that's the end of my spiel right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great day. Other than that, peace.